with this. So I said, trust God as if everything depends on him, and then work as if everything depends on us.
I love that. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. Trust God as if everything depends on him, and then work as if everything depends on us.
We like to start every show with a proverb. Today's proverb is Proverbs 16:3. You want to start this one off, bud, or you want me to?
I'll get it up for us, man. I got to get my eyeballs on. Proverbs 16:3 says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. Again, I'll read it again. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. So when I read this is what I wrote down with this. So I said, trust God as if everything depends on him, and then work as if everything depends on us.
I love that. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah. Trust God as if everything depends on him, and then work as if everything depends on us. So I kind of broke this down to look at three different aspects of the way that people can look at this. So number one is that we just trust God superficially, so in words, but not in actions. So it's just like, yeah, I trust God. But there's nothing that follows up with my heart or my life or my decisions that's really showing that I really put faith and trust in God. So one area. Second area is I can give God control temporarily. So I'm going to give God control for a while, but if he doesn't work on my time and then in the decisions that I desire, then I'm going to take that control back from him, and ultimately I don't trust God with that either. And then the third one is that we give God control, but we put forth no effort. I call these the Jesus take the wheel people. It's, I'm going to have this decision or this idea, and I'm going to lay it before God and then sit back and just wait in expectation that God is just going to do everything for me. And I really don't like, for me, that's a very frustrating or a very simplistic way to look at life, as if, that just God is going to clear the way for me. Because I understand you read these Old Testament stories of like God leading the Israelites out of Egypt, and he splits the Red Sea, and he just rains down manna from heaven, and he does these amazing, miraculous things. And I still believe that God is still the miraculous today, but our expectation is that's how God is going to work in the everyday decisions and normal parts of our life. And that's just not reality.
Well, how about this even? When you're reading the Bible, from one sentence to the next, years could have passed.
Well, definitely. Thank you. That's such a helpful description of the Bible. Thank you for laying that out like that. You're right.
From Paul's first ministry to his second ministry, which is, I'm reading the book of Acts right now.
I just finished that book. Love the book of Acts.
From his first ministry to his second ministry, there's 3 years in between. There is only a paragraph splitting the two.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know the 3 years until you go, I have a study Bible, so then I look towards the bottom and kind of read, and it extrapolates on each one of these concepts. And it says that there. And it's the first time I ever read that part. And it was like, holy smokes. So he took 3 years to refortify himself in whatever form that looked like before he went out on this next mission. And, that makes me then think about Joseph. And he spent a ton of time in prison. Like, that wasn't an instant he was in prison and then he was running things for Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
He was in prison for a minute, and then he worked for the other guy for a while before he went into the assistance of Pharaoh. It's like these things took years to manifest and happen. Can God do something instantly? Sure, if he wants to. But what usually happens is he takes there's a forming. There's a time of forming and a time of like winnowing down to create the tool that God needs. And that takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't recognize that enough, I don't think. And I think that's kind of a piece that you're saying there is like, read the three things again without the context.
That we give God control superficially,
Yeah.
temporarily, and then it's give God control and I have no action.
Okay. It's like any one of those things is a lack of faith. So if it's either short-term lack of faith or long-term lack of faith, but ultimately the conclusion is consistently a lack of faith. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. And the challenging part of when we start to make decisions about committing our work to the Lord is our expectations, because we live in a world where I want it now. And
I have a microwave and can eat food 60 seconds after I put it in there, from the refrigerator where it's cold
to my mouth,
to
hot,
piping hot,
60 seconds. And so our expectation in business or anything big is that's how God's going to work
Can
here.
be.
Yeah. And so then the question is, okay, so I let's just take a business. I'm starting a business. Let's just take this as a perfect example. Like, okay, we're going to start this podcast. We're over a year into it and still spending money and still working towards this thing. And so it'd be very easy for us to go a year in. Nothing's come of it yet. So this was fun to do and let's walk away from it. Or we can continue to go, we feel that God is in the midst of this. And so we're going to continue to work because we believe that God is growing us. He's stretching us. He's causing us to rely on him more. He's making us think bigger. And because of that, we just continue to pursue on. It'd be very easy for you if you don't get a result immediately to immediately think God's not behind that. But that's not reality. Very often what happens is that God, as you just said, it just begins to trim, begins to prune. He begins to form who you are, begins to strengthen you. And the only way that you're going to get that is over time. I had a breakfast with this young man this week, and we were just talking about, he was asking me some questions of what I thought he should do with his life and where he should go. And we were talking about knowledge, and he's like, I have all this knowledge. And he goes, I really want wisdom. And I said, that's where you want to be. But I said, there's one way you get wisdom. One.
Time under tension?
Time. It's time under tension. That's the only way you're going to get wisdom.
Yeah.
And in today's culture and society, it's not how we work. That's not how we react. I can right now get on my phone and go to Amazon, and before you and I are done recording, something's going to be at my house.
Well, or I can assume my ability to use that tool right there and gain knowledge instantly from it means I'm knowledgeable. So I can use any of these AI things now, whether it's Grok or ChatGPT, to get a pretty quick answer on something. In fact, I was setting up my generator because we're starting to move towards that season now. And I bought a brand new one for this year, and I'm just making sure I'm doing everything right because this is like dual fuel. You can use propane or you can use gas. I've never had one that had propane. So I said on the propane part, just kind of checking that out and giving it a run. And all I had to do was put into ChatGPT, what's the amount of oil to put into this thing? What's the amount of this? What's the amount of that? How do I set And it laid it all out for me in
8
3 seconds. I didn't even have to watch a YouTube video anymore of some other guy and get through his like, share, subscribe on his channel. I just was able to instantly have this info from ChatGPT and apply it, and it worked great and everything was perfect. So this instantaneous thing can make me feel like, boy, ain't I smart. Look at how now I know that information. It took me using it to confirm that it worked. And then it'll probably, because I didn't earn that information, it'll probably go. A month from now, ask me how to do it. And I'll probably be bringing up ChatGPT again. Now, reestablishing this here, Proverbs 16:3, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. There's an ask and then there's a promise. The ask is commit to the Lord whatever you do.
And I think the most important word that we connect with there is the commit, right? So it's very easy to read this and just kind of spin right off of that. But it's like, what does it mean to commit?
To give yourself over to.
Completely.
Right. So commit to the Lord whatever you do. There's the requirement, and he will establish your plans is the promise.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's awesome. I don't think we consider it that way very often. It's saying, do this and this will happen. And that's kind of what we're always suggesting here at UPD. Our stories are always, hey, we tried it. It worked for us. Why don't you try it and see if it works for you? It's really just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
So, my thought of this was I was thinking about when I used to bartend. That's where we became friends, where I met my wife. I was making great money bartending, and I had just gotten a brand new job at a bar that I wanted to work at.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, at that exact same time, started doing my contracting business. And I knew that to be with this woman that I really liked a lot, that I already kind of had a hankering to marry in a way. I was already in that direction of my mentality. I wanted to settle down. I wanted to be with somebody and really invest that time. And I really liked my wife at the time. And she became my wife, obviously. But the thing was this bartending thing made way more money. And it was a job that I'd wanted. And the contracting thing is hard work, and there was no guarantee of anything. I had 2, maybe 3 a third job on the horizon, but I had 2 guaranteed jobs. And for the first couple of weeks, I worked all day painting houses, and then I would work deep into the evening time bartending. I did that for, 3 or 4 days a week, and then I'd catch up my sleep on the other couple of days that I had. But I didn't get much time with this lady that I really liked. And I was praying about it, like, God, what do I do here? And I didn't get an instant answer, but I got a indication in the responses I was getting from others as I'd bring this idea up. Again, we always talk about mentorship, but having friends around that care about you, that are invested in God. So I'm talking to Joel, I'm talking to my wife, future wife, girlfriend, and saying like, gosh, I don't think I want to do this bartending thing anymore. I want to see if this contracting thing could work. It would give me more time to be. She had a child. We have a child. She had a child already.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was going to take, I need to be around for that if I want to be with her.
Right.
So these things had to happen. I remember praying about it and just feeling like, this was the step to take. And the minute I did that, other people, God started organizing things around me and started making it so that this was the job. All of a sudden that third job solidified. And then that guy knew a couple other people, and a fourth and fifth job materialized. And I was able to move away from that. So it was like that prayer was me committing and saying, all right, God, I got a decision to make here. I'm going to give it up to you. I'm going to keep doing these things until I get an indicator.
Mm-hmm.
And the indicator was people around me going, you can stop doing that bartending thing. You can take on this contracting thing. And then the minute I did it, God instantly stepped into that place with establishing the plan because more jobs materialized I wasn't putting out stuff. And then I did go about putting stuff. I made flyers. And initially when I started my business, every neighborhood I'd work in, I'd go knock on doors. And if somebody wasn't there, I'd put a little door hanger on saying, in the neighborhood painting, let me know if you want a free estimate. And there's a little picture of me with an American flag behind me. My wife made it. She goes, you're so American. Look at how American this looks. This is great. People are going to hire you. And they did. So, ask God in and then align yourself with him. Again, that prayer thing helped me to align myself. It's saying, God, I trust you. You've got great plans for me. And though I'm uncertain of what they are, I think you're going to do great with them. And I'm just going to trust you with them. And also, it's then trusting that he will give you the provisions you need.
Right. But what I want people to hear from your story, because I love that story because it's a perfect example of you stepping out in faith and then God establishing your steps. But what people also need to hear, it was still hard. Like, there's a lot of hard days where you question that. And there's a lot of hard days where you're still wondering where that next job is coming from. There's a lot of hard days of physical labor doing your job.
There's doing things that weren't my job. I wanted to paint houses. I didn't want to clean roofs, but a lot of people wanted to pay me to clean their roof because I cleaned one guy. He goes, can you put some spray and forget up there? And I said, okay. And I did that. And then his neighbor said, boy, look how much better his looks. We do that to mine. Okay. I didn't want to do that, but it became part of this early part of establishing the business. Hey, I got a fence in the back. Would you tear that fence down? All right. Can you take it away? Sure. Here's what I think it would cost for you to do that. All right, great. I'll do it. So that's what all of this became, was me just saying yes and showing up and working hard. Mm-hmm. And then they would tell other people because I was available. I said yes, and I worked hard. So yes, those things were all components of it as well. Mm-hmm. But God was establishing those plans. With every time that I showed up, God showed up. And then he would provide, and he would make sure everything's there.